Hi guys, I'm Tim from Anything Scout, and today we're going to be showing how to install the Scout 800 wing window seals. Alright, so when you order your wing window kit from us, this will show up at your door. These are 3D printed, they're in nylon, pretty nice. They are labeled left and right, so no fear there, which side is which. It's pretty self-explanatory. You should get the main window seals, the backer plates, and a bag of rivets and washers, and most importantly, instructions. Okay, the tools before we get started, and before you get started with removal, in addition to these tools, for my part of the video, this is the tool selection I'll need. In addition to this, you'll need a number 3 Phillips screwdriver and a 1/2-inch ratchet wrench or a ratchet with a socket to physically remove the window from the truck. In addition to that, I highly suggest a nice smaller awl. Just make sure it tapers to a small end. That'll help you get the rivets out of the truck and out of the frame. A small screwdriver, just a flat blade. That's kind of for like persuading the seal if it gets stuck and just kind of manipulating it a little bit. A nice rivet gun. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a smaller tip on this. That'll come into play later. Some of the cheaper ones you can get at this, just the regular hardware store have a very broad tip, and it does not work very well for this process. So Click Fasts are nice. Some of the other brands that just make sure it has a nice taper to the end. That'll come in handy. And then just a rubber mallet with either a nylon end and a rubber end, or just a rubber mallet is fine. And most importantly for getting the rivets out is a drill with an 1/8-inch drill bit. All right, so the first 3 steps of the instructions will be the removal from the truck. You can follow these steps. It's very well laid out, the bolts that you'll need to remove and the actual removal process. Where I'm going to come in is actually the reassembly. It's a little fuzzy in the instructions, and we've had a lot of questions. So basically, you'll remove these bolts, get the wing window itself out, then you'll drill out the 2 pivot rivets like it says there, and then you'll basically turn to step 2B. You'll remove the bottom plate and retaining screw, and then on 3, you'll just remove the rear rivets and pull the physical glass out of the frame. To install, the instructions are pretty helpful, but I'm going to basically set these aside and kind of show you guys firsthand what I like to do when I'm going into the reassembly. These wing window frames have been painted. These actually have been powder coated. You can paint them when they're apart. I would highly recommend doing that so they don't get rusty again. Kind of go through it. If you want to put these plates back on, I would suggest doing that. They're nice to keep the wing window latch from scuffing your new paint. But basically just make sure your frames are solid before you reinstall your new seals. This is the right wing window. This is the right back plate and the main seal. So the first step in reassembly will be taking your main seal and inserting it into the frame. I like to have it this way to where the L channel is facing away from me. And then you can just hold up your seal and you can actually see that this wing window is shorter on the far side, so that you know that this is actually the right wing window frame itself. So basically we'll start by inserting the new seal into the track, and it fits pretty nice in here. It's all 3D printed and well modeled, and they actually go into the channel pretty nicely. But just make sure you push down fully and fully seat the bottom of your seal into the track. It can be kind of tricky to get them started. But you'll see underneath, you can actually feel the seal right below the frame. That's when you know you're fully seated in there. And then just kind of work it into the frame as you go up. And again, kind of keep downward force on it to push it and make sure that you're all the way seated at the base. Like they're kind of hopped out of track, so we'll keep feeding that down. Now when you get to this point, stop. The instructions do say this, but it is crucial that you don't go any further with the seal install until you actually install your glass into the frame. So we'll do that next. we'll take the glass and put it in the frame, but making sure that the pivot that you drilled out will be able to swing around and go into the track. So you'll want to come basically from the back side with the glass, put the pivot down through the opening, swing open your pivot, pull back the seal, and you'll want these two to go together before the seal goes into place. And this part can be kind of tricky. You get it set in there, and you'll see your holes don't always line up right away. You will have to push down on the physical window into the frame, and you'll have to push pretty hard. And there you can see they start to line up. So at this point, we'll grab our rivet gun and go through the next process. So make sure that your holes are very well aligned, and I've been pushing down on this glass with moderate force, not anything crazy. This is where your awl comes in handy, and you can hold one of the holes. I'll grab one of my rivets that comes in the kit, and we'll put it in the upper hole, and we'll get ready to secure that. It is very important to keep pressure downward on the glass, make sure these holes stay in alignment, because this sets your pivot for your wing window functionality. So you definitely want to make sure that you have this set up tight and you're pressing the pivot back against the window frame. All right, so I got my top rivet in. Now I'm just setting my lower rivet in there. Every rivet gun's a little different, so kind of do a test not on your frame to know how many pulls it'll take to get your rivet in there, and just go kind of carefully. I'm keeping pressure on the pivot against the frame while I'm doing this as well, just to make sure it stays. There you go. Now our pivot is officially installed in the frame, and we can finish installing this seal into the remainder of the frame. At this point, I usually start the back. There's a hole up here, and this will have to go through the frame into that hole. So I like to start that first before I go any further. So we'll just kind of pull it out, and these seals are pretty flexible. It's pretty easy to get these started up in there. So just kind of wiggle it and start that up in there. Pull down on this, and then you'll just kind of feed it into the track. Now the temptation now is like, oh yeah, I want to shut this. Don't do that yet. We're not quite done. There's a couple more steps that you'll want to make sure that you do before you try and shut this, and we'll go through those now. All right, so the backstop or the back seal is arguably one of the most important parts of resealing these windows. And to start with, if you have it fully disassembled, you've painted your frame and everything, now is the time to put these little striker plates back on, and they go right onto the channel. And usually it's this upper hole. They have two holes, not sure what the other one's for, if it was for a different model or whatever, but you'll want to shoot for this top hole and line that up with the rivet hole that's in the back of the frame down here. And so you can use your awl from the outside and just kind of work that in and make sure that that is centered in there before you start. That way your scuff plate will be riveted in place and not move around on you. So for this is where the instructions get pretty, they're clear, but it's better. I'm a visual learner, and it's always nice to have somebody that shows how this is actually done in person. So we'll take a washer and our rivet, and in the instructions, and if this is where your tapered rivet gun is going to come into play hugely, and making sure that you have a narrow tipped rivet gun will help a lot. So first we're going to take our strip. There's a little coved opening around each rivet. You're going to want to put a washer down in there. Now what this washer does is it retains the seal into the track, but the rivet goes through the frame first, and the end of that will grab the washer. So you'll insert your seal into your frame. And I should make a note, this kind of chamfered edge right there is towards what the glass goes into, and this is the backstop. So this L kind of 90-degree angle there will go into the track at a 90-degree angle as well. So you'll slide this kind of past your seal that's already installed, and then I usually take my awl and go through both layers here. And you might be poking around a little bit and knock that washer out. Just make sure that you get it fully seated once you get everything lined up. But we'll go through here. And now I can see the end of my awl coming through there pretty centered, so we're good. Now I'm going to start a rivet through that hole. This part can get kind of tricky. It's just important to take your time and make sure, it's absolutely crucial that you get this washer seated flat into the opening in the seal. Otherwise you're going to have a lot of trouble getting that rivet to go in. Okay, now that I've got my rivet in there, my washer aligned, this is the important step of having a narrow tip on the rivet gun itself so that it can fit down in this channel. The depth of the channel and the depth of your rivet gun will not match. I've yet to come across a rivet gun that's this deep. So what the instructions show, and it's a little bit hard to understand by their pictures, is they actually stack there's extra washers in your kit. So you'll stack these washers on the back side. Again, this is in the channel. There's already a washer on the inside of the rubber of the seal. The rivet's through that. That's all centered, that's all great. And then we're gonna drop these down on this side of the rivet. And what that does is it basically raises the height of the clamping surface of the rivet so that my gun can reach down in and pull that rivet tight and pop it in place. So once you have all that in place, just make sure that your washer stayed. You'll pull, pop that rivet, and you'll just knock the washers down the line. They'll come out the end, and you can reuse those for all of your washers, or for all of your rivets. So then that will pull your seal nice and tight into the frame, and we'll just repeat this going down the line. Okay, now that I've got all my rivets in that back stop, the moment of truth, will it shut? These will be kind of stiff the first few times. There it goes. Yes, it is very tight, nice sealing. Probably have to push it a little bit more, and the pivot on the bottom will tighten up when you get the screw in there, and we'll put that in next, but you have to have the window shut and in the position you want it in to get the tension right. And again, these things will be pretty tight. Just kind of the nature of the beast there. There we go. And there is your completed wing window seal. Everything should fit pretty tight and nice. Should be no air gaps where they usually deteriorate, and it's nice and tight at the bottom there. So the last step here, we will install the screw onto the pivot plate that you took out during disassembly. And having it shut kind of ensures that your depth and everything into the window track is correct. And when you open and shut it again, it's not going to move around at the bottom or slide in this tab. And you want that pretty snug. And that should be pretty much it. Now it's ready for reinstalling into the truck and another 50 years of operation. Okay, and that is the final assembly of our Scout 8800 wing window seal kit. Everything that we've used today is available on our site, anythingscout.com. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to throw them down in the comment section and let us know. If you want to see something else, hit us up. We like making these videos and helping you guys out. See you again next time.